Hey everyone, welcome back to Take Back My Brain. I'm your host, Laurie Hammer, and today I have with me Chris James, and we are going to dive into fasting. And I know all of you know how much I love fasting, and Chris is an expert on fasting, and so I cannot wait to have this conversation with him. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure. I am so excited to be here. I love talking about fasting. It's changed my life, and hopefully, it'll change some lives in the future here.
Great. I would love to hear that. So, one, tell my audience a little bit about yourself, and then I want to know how you got into fasting.
Okay, so I created a wellness brand called A Healthy Alternative, and the reason why I did that was because I personally was dealing with some health concerns in the ripe age of 28 years old,
That's not good.
and not and it, like I felt like they were issues that I would previously said are like midlife 45 maybe
Yeah.
50-year-old problems. Hair was thinning,
Oh.
my cognitive function was declining. Like I put my keys down, I don't know where I put my keys. Um, I had an infection in my urethra,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was getting progressively worse. Um, and the list kind of goes on and on. I would go to sleep I was in construction at the time, and at lunch I would eat and I was just knocked out. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
wake up, fall asleep on lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to figure out a way to reverse all of these issues because at 28, if you've got all that going on, what's
What's
45 gonna
48
look
gonna
like,
look like? Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. So what led you into fasting? Because it's not something that people like really gravitate towards. Let's be honest. Gee,
Yeah.
I want to fast today. People don't usually say that.
It was a really interesting process. So part of what I was dealing with was also depression.
Mm.
And that depression stemmed from a breakup that I had 6 years prior,
Oh,
and I
wow.
could not get over it. And
Okay.
so, through talking to my elders, I came up with this idea to start fasting because my goal was to get closer to God. I'm like, maybe if I try to get closer to God, it'll pull me away from this old relationship.
Sure.
We used to fast when I was younger, probably 9 years old when I remember my first fast. And so I was like, I'm gonna do the Jesus fast, the 40-day Jesus fast, right? I ended up doing 13 of those 40 days. I was very disappointed in myself,
Well,
but
13 days is pretty amazing, Chris.
it's crazy, right? But like,
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about fasting. I didn't know about prep. I didn't know. So, I did what I could, but it changed my life. My depression went out the window. My cravings went out the window. The infection that I was dealing with, I noticed that it started to subside on like day two of the
Oh,
fast,
wow. Okay. Mm-hmm.
right? And so I started, and then like day 4 or 5, I've experienced what I call the Goldilocks zone. It's a euphoric space where you feel like you could fast forever. You have
Mm-hmm.
energy, your cognitive function is high. I felt so good, and it just taught me a lot. And so after that, I dove into fasting. Like I started learning about it, doing it regularly, and using it on my brothers. I got them involved.
Well, that's good. It's great when family gets involved. And you have a story about your brother losing what, like 100 pounds or something on fasting?
So I have two stories about my brothers. The one that lost 100 pounds, he lost 100 pounds in 90 days with no loose skin.
Holy cow. Tell us
Yeah.
about that. Because everybody's like 100 pounds in 90 days, no loose skin. How did that
Yeah.
happen?
So that brother was like 400, over 400 pounds when he kind of started his weight loss journey.
Wow, okay.
When he started working with me, I think he was like 375.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why he started working with me is because he had tried all the other stuff, you know what I mean? And he plateaued, he was going to the gym, and I'm like, "Look, man, you should try this fasting thing. It'll help with your depression because he had depression. He was going through a divorce. It'll help with the weight loss, it'll help with his inflammation in his wrist."
Mm-hmm.
And so he started with like it was either 10 days or maybe longer. He started with a lot of days,
Fast. Okay.
and he noticed that the weight was rapidly falling off. Now, this is a guy who had been playing with this weight loss for years, so he understood his body really well. And then after that first initial like experience, he was kind of hooked, and he was having a very easy experience because sometimes when you have a lot of weight, fasting's actually easier for you,
Easier. Yeah.
right? So he started doing these really long fasts. So he would do like 21 days and 14 days. And so throughout that 3 month period of time, I think he probably ate like a total of 8 to 10 days. So
Wow.
so he would space fasting and he would
Yeah.
eat in between.
Hmm.
And he had liver damage. He had fungus on his feet since he was a child.
Yeah.
He had cuts that he received when he played football. All that stuff disappeared. Like I said, he lost 100 pounds. His skin tightened up properly, no issues with loose skin. And I mean, we documented it on my YouTube channel. It's old, it's from 2017,
Okay.
but it's all there. You can see
Wow.
the difference. He's a completely different person.
That is incredible. That's incredible. And it's amazing what the body can do, right? I mean, we were created to fast. I mean, I don't think they fasted in the garden, but I mean, God, our body has the ability, the way that we're created, to fast and to fast well if we just, prep our body correctly and it's part of our just regular lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
I
Yep.
know the first time I started fasting, I was actually afraid to fast, Chris, because I had an eating disorder. And so through all the years, years after recovery, and everybody's like, that'll trigger your eating disorder. You can't fast, you can't fast. And God was like, I'm reading about all this fasting in the Bible, right? And following a few people who were fasting, and I'm like, I really want to fast. So I started intermittent fasting, and that was fine. But then I'm like, I felt the Holy Spirit tell me it's time to do a 5-day fast. And so I just jumped into the 5-day fast. I didn't have any prep. I didn't have anything. And I kind of thought I was going to like lose my mind during those 5 days. But I would say it was one of the best things that I ever did for my life. And it totally like reset my hormones. And I wouldn't say I had any euphoria on day 4 because like my cycle came, even though it was like 2 weeks before it came again, it was like my body was totally resetting my hormones. And
Mm.
I will say from that fast on, like I barely have ever had any cramps in the last 8 years since then.
Isn't
You
it
know, from that
incredible?
one fast, and then I incorporated that into, I mean, I have a regular fast. I fast at least one day a week, 24 hours, and then I incorporate several 5-day fasts a year. So it's amazing what it can do.
Yeah. I'm actually really curious because, one of the people who have eating disorders, that's one of the things that they're afraid of. Because they still ask me about fasting,
Hmm.
and I believe that fasting can actually help because when I do my longer fast, it helps with mental trauma,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like it releases it without talk therapy and like more of the traditional routes. It
Hmm.
releases it like. And you experience like really weird emotions and
Yeah.
feelings, but then once it's gone, it seems to be gone.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with
do-
you. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely agree. I actually got fired. I used to teach for an institute. I do amino acid therapy, so I help people with anxiety, depression, we balance the brain. And I teach fasting right now, but a long time ago, I was teaching for an institute, and the owner of the institute didn't agree with fasting. And a few
Mm,
students started asking me about fasting, and she heard it on the recording, and then she fired me. She's like, "You can't teach on fasting and still work here." But it also like solidified that I was supposed to teach on fasting, right? So I felt
yeah.
like that was, the deterrent of the enemy for sure.
Mm,
So, I mean, I incorporate it all the time now. People will come to me with eating disorders, and I do foundational work first, get them
hmm.
nourished, and we work on their mindset, their identity. But I incorporate fasting because it'll clean up the body like nothing else can. And we just monitor. I have never had anybody fall back into an eating disorder that I've been working with.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Mm,
I mean, I think you have to know your person and you have to set the foundation first, but
hmm.
definitely. So tell our audience, they've heard me talk about it a lot before, and I have a fasting made simple class, but tell us what you do to help people start fasting,
Okay. So I always recommend 7 days to kind of prepare the body. Most people are coming from the standard American diet
right?
and they're very excited. They want to jump out and they want to fast. And so we do a minimum of 1 week. Sometimes we'll do 2 weeks, depending if we're going to do like a longer fast. And that looks a little different how we prepare, but our basic one day is really up. up regulating water. So like most people don't drink enough water.
Right?
Uh, we do a little training about what hydration is because a lot of people think, oh, I could just drink a bottle of water, I'll hydrate. No, that's not how that works. So the what you want to do is start eating your water, and so we get rid of
Mhm.
breakfast. That's one of the first things we do. We either get rid of breakfast or we'll have people do like fruits in the morning or fruit
Yeah.
juice or something like that, right? And so the sorry, Lori, hold on. Okay. So we'll do like fruit juice or we'll do like a smoothie bowl or something
Okay.
like that if they feel like they need something.
Yeah.
And then we're really trying to push that first major meal out to like noon,
I love it. Hmm.
around noon.
So shrinking
I
that eating window.
shrinking that it's just that beginning phase,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And and then as we progress through our preparation, we're actually going to focus on portion control.
Hmm.
So now, we eat toxic food, we eat fast food, we right?
Yeah.
If we could just reduce how much toxic food we eat as we lead up to our fast, and then also incorporate more high water content fruits and vegetables, that helps. And
Okay.
ultimately, what my preparation is designed to do is control grilling spikes.
Mm.
So that way, if like if you're eating 6 times a day, because a lot of people don't realize all the snacking that's eating,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so you're snacking 6 times a day. You're getting grilling spikes all the time. If you go into fasting with your body like that, you're going to be hungry. It's going to be so miserable.
Yes.
So let's reduce and control the grilling spikes, the frequency, the intensity, and then we cap it with juice. We'll do
Okay.
juice for 2 days,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
and then that'll clean out the intestinal tract, the colon, and it just kind of prepare the body for subsisting on water.
Right. Can you tell the audience what ghrelin is?
So it's a digestive fluid. Well, it does many different things, but one of the things it's known for is the hunger pangs.
Hmm.
So like when you get hunger pangs, it's ghrelin, the body's producing ghrelin in preparation for digesting food.
Right.
And so I think one of the issues that we have is that we think, oh, I'm hungry, it's time to eat. And
Right.
we're misinterpreting the signals of the body, which we do all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so what if you understand that that doesn't mean, oh, I'm hungry, it's time to eat. It's just you're used to eating at 5 p.m. And so the
Hmm.
body is so intelligent, it's like, okay, let me prepare our
Right. It's
digestive
close to
process,
5 p.m. We got to start preparing.
right?
Yeah.
And so if we change our habits leading up to our fast, we can kind of teach the body something different. And then that way, it's not spiking and preparing for something that you don't plan to happen.
Right. Right. No, I love that. I love that. So how do you lead people up to the fast and then what do you do during that? Is it a 5 day fast? Is it a 7 day fast? What do you teach first?
So with beginners, we usually teach um, 3 day water fast is like really, really popular with our group.
Yeah, I
And
can see
that's
that.
Yeah. And well, the reason why is because the 3 day fast gives you like the most benefit of fasting with the least amount of effort,
Fair
right?
enough.
Because
Yeah.
because like you get your human growth hormone
Mhm.
skyrockets over the course of 2 days. You get autophagy over the course of that 72 hours. Your glycogen stores kind of deplete. You're in ketosis. Like all of the buzzwords, all the fun things
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
fasting are happening. And I think it gives you a glimpse of what fasting can do. You also see a ton of weight loss. If you've
Hmm.
never fasted, 3 days can produce anywhere from 4 to 10 pounds, depending on the person, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So, and then if we incorporate dry fasting, which I don't know if you guys talk about dry or
We
not.
do. I love dry fasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we do dry, we usually start with like 2 days,
Sure.
after prep. Yeah.
And when you teach dry fasting, so dry fasting for those who don't know what it is, you want to tell them what that is?
Sure. So dry fasting is your traditional fasting style. Like when we look at the Bible, the fasting they did, that was dry fasting, no food, no water for a set duration of time. And then, of course, you'll come out of it with a proper refeed. That's like the most
Right.
important thing.
Yeah, I think the refeed is sometimes more important than the fast, right? Because you
I
don't want
agree
to
with you.
do everything that you've done. So when you teach dry fasting, are you teaching like no showering, no like no water in the body at all?
I usually teach soft dry fasting, so that does
Okay.
allow for showering and
Yeah, I
brushing
mean
of
like
teeth,
brushing your
right?
teeth. Yeah, me too. I
Yeah.
have to brush my teeth. I don't know. I
You
can't.
got to, like we're in modern times, we're around people,
Yeah.
but what I will say is I did test both dry fasting and soft dry fasting, or hard dry fasting and soft dry fasting, and I found that the difference wasn't it wasn't as noticeable, and
Okay.
so I didn't find that we needed to really do that. Now, what I will say is when I was doing my hard dry fasting, at that time I was very clean. My body was very clean, and I did notice when I went to go shower, like after I finish, I go to start
Yeah.
showering. I could feel the chemicals in the water.
Sure, I bet. Could you
Yeah.
taste them too? Because I've had
I
that happen. Yeah.
tasting and smelling.
Yeah,
Yes.
even with the water filter, like there's still
Even
stuff
with the
that gets
filter.
through. It makes your body like super aware of anything that shouldn't be in there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
there's definitely benefit to doing the hard dry fast if you can.
Yeah.
But I also recommend if you're gonna do a hard dry fast, you probably want to go outside, do a little sunbathing,
Mm-hmm.
grounding. Those
Yeah.
things are going to be important too.
Yeah. Do you use salt when you do this or any supplementation for any type of the fasting that you do?
It's funny, when I very first started teaching fasting, I was a purist.
Yeah.
And, because like I said, I was like, I want to do the Jesus fast. So I was a
Yeah.
purist. And um, but I was always okay with using like herbs, like certain herbs to help. So getting the mucus out of the system,
Mm-hmm.
reducing inflammation. So I've always been okay with herbal teas, but I would teach pure water fasting early on.
Yeah.
And then I learned that a lot of people don't have the mental fortitude to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
pure water fast very long.
Yeah.
So we start incorporating some supplements. We have partners with some nutraceutical brands that we really trust. The products are
Yeah.
incredible, and we use those. And when we do our big challenges where we've got hundreds of people, we'll use those.
I love it.
But for a simple supplementation, yeah, I mean, a high quality sea salt. You want a complete sea salt that has your magnesium. And what we teach is just simply take a grain of the salt, put it under the tongue, let it dissolve, and then you drink your water. And that way that that it'll draw the water into the cells and increase hydration.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. What do you feel like people have a misunderstanding about fasting? Like, what are some myths? Like maybe like the top three that you've discovered?
Okay, well, the number one myth is that it's going to eat up your muscle mass or your
Right.
lean muscle mass,
Yes.
right? People think that it's going to destroy, and you know, the thing about it, muscle mass is important. It's very important, right? But it's like if you're dealing with obesity, how concerned have you really been with your muscle mass?
Right. You're not.
Like
Yeah.
I find that a lot of people kind of use it as an excuse. It's kind of like one of those things. So it's like it actually increases your ability to produce muscle.
It does.
Now,
Yeah.
what I will say is what people do lose is the inflammation
Mm-hmm.
around your muscles. So like you go to the gym, you get a nice pump, you'll lose that inflammation. So it looks like you deflate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But what you get in return are soft, supple muscles that are highly functional. You're less prone to cramping, pulling, and all of those issues you have
Yeah.
when you overwork your muscles. It increases your body's ability to recruit muscle fibers. So then when you go back to the gym and you start working, you get better extra workouts. So people who do like they're fitness trainers, they do competitions, they love intermittent fasting
Yeah.
because they use it as a tool. So that's probably one of the number one things. The other one we kind of already touched on a little bit, loose skin.
Yeah.
People think that no matter what, if you lose weight too fast, you're going to have loose skin. And traditionally speaking, that's true, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we look at traditional weight loss methods, you're going to have loose skin. I don't see any traditional methods that avoid loose skin. But with fasting, actually, the longer you fast, if you do it properly, you get better tightening and shrinking of
Yep.
skin. So you get autophagy when you fast. I mean, you're fasting for a day or two. You're pretty much getting autophagy to some
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
But if you do what I found on our 21-day fasts, if you do at least 21 days, from day 14 to 21, you experience what we call the fasting shrink week. So
Mm,
it is an entire week where you're probably not going to lose any weight. You might lose half a pound, or you might gain half a pound.
mm.
But check your inches, check your chest,
Oh,
check your
sure.
man, my brother, and the story I told you about my brother who lost 100 pounds, he had a day where he lost like 5 inches off his waist
Oh, that's
in
amazing
a day.
in a day because your body
In
can
a
do
day.
amazing things when you remove the interference. And food is an
Right.
interference sometimes.
A huge interference. Let's
Yeah.
not talk about the gut and the processing power of the gut. Um, I guess one last myth about fasting would be that you're going to deplete your nutrients. You're going
Yeah.
to kind of basically make yourself sick or malnourished from fasting. I want to be clear, and I don't know if you guys have ever talked about it on your show, but there's a big difference between starvation and fasting.
Yes. Please tell us the
So
difference. Yeah.
there have been experiments in the past where the government have done these quote unquote starvation experiments, and that's what most people see, where they will put people on a caloric deficit for X amount of time.
Hmm.
People have to understand when the body, okay, if the body is used to getting carbohydrates as fuel, and then you reduce that fuel source, it's still using and looking for the carbohydrates for fuel.
Right.
When you fast, the body switches fuel sources. It's
Mhm.
no longer using carbohydrates for fuel. It's using, ketones or fat or, wherever it is in its process. And if it's using ketones, you don't gotta like if you're it's like a completely different fuel source. It's a great renewable energy, like the body loves it. And so it actually thrives off of that fuel source
Yeah.
versus if you just give it a little bit of calories and it's really not able to get what it needs. And
Right.
so the mental state is different. When you fast, you're like, I'm going to do this thing for a period of time. When
Hmm.
you're starving, it's like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to eat.
Right.
And so that also plays a big role into it.
Yeah, yeah. And fasting is it's a hormetic stress, right? So it's a good stress on the body. Um, but we don't want to over fast either, right? So you got to find your sweet spot, and every person is completely different. And depending on where you are in your weight loss journey, your hormone journey, whether you're a woman or a man, that looks really different. So can you talk about some of those differences, especially between like men need to fast differently, or women, I should say, need to be fast differently than men? Because I teach according to your cycle. It seems to work a lot better.
It's interesting because I've heard that men and women need to fast differently. In my experience, I haven't found that men and women have vastly different experiences, except for the fact that obviously when you have your cycle, you're
Hmm.
going to have a different experience with what the
Right.
body does and everything. But and I just go based off of the women. I have, my female coaches and
Yeah.
my audience is mostly women. And so, I don't have that experience,
Yeah.
but most of them say that it's fine. They can fast during their cycle, but yeah, you're going to have a different experience. So, as you had mentioned earlier, a lot of women have what I would say are irregular cycles.
Yeah.
They bleed too much, they bleed too long,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so you got a lot of anemia and things of that nature. I have actually found, so one of the first women that I fasted was my friend Tiffany. And she had really, really bad cycles. She had really bad PMS. And what we did was we started her on juice. So
Okay.
instead of diving into the water fasting, we started her on juice and we started her on changing her nutrition.
Hmm.
So she did like raw food. This has been like almost 8 years now, but
Yeah.
she did raw food for a period of time, let's say a week,
Uh-huh.
and then she switched to juice. And I think she did juice for a week or maybe 10 days
Okay.
before she ever did any like water fasting.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And so, yeah, she found that she was able to get better regulation from her cycle. She found that her PMS was pretty much gone.
On. Hmm.
This lady, she messaged me one day, ecstatic. She was like, Chris, my cycle is here. And I'm like,
Great.
congratulations. And she's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I didn't know it was coming. It like completely snuck up on me.
That's
And,
awesome.
and so she was excited about that. Now, what I will say is for men, you still need to do some sort of preparation.
Hmm.
Like, we don't get cycles, but there's still things that you want to be prepared for because you want to be successful.
Right.
So, obviously, if you, if you deal with like some type of mental issue where you overeat or you undereat or whatever, I think that it's important to like begin addressing that first through
Sure.
like proper nutrition
Hmm.
and like I said, grounding, breathing techniques,
Right.
things like we'll approach unique situations like that. But for most men, I put them on my preparation
Hmm.
guide first, and then we kind of,
Yeah.
go from there. There's
Yeah.
not really too much that I'd change.
Right. It seems to be easier, yeah, for men than women. I've seen anyway. I mean, women can really fast well. Um, but I don't know, like men just seem to be able to jump into it.
Well, there's a mental component to it.
Yeah.
Men are taught to be tough and look, okay, now we're gonna get into something else.
All right.
So in society, men are taught men don't cry.
Right.
And that's a major problem.
It is a problem. I agree, Chris. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially in relationships with men, where you want them to express themselves, you want to have that conversation,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
they really don't want to. But also, I guess it affords us some stoicism. Like you kind of feel like I'm a man, I'm gonna do this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But fasting is like a Mack truck.
Oh yeah.
Like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So you really need to lay down the macho stuff and prepare mentally because yeah, you could tough through it, but then here's what happens. You get what I call fasting fatigue,
Hmm.
right? You've been
Yeah.
fasting for a month or even more, and you've been toughing it out. And then you're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you feel like you can't get back into it and you slowly will lose progress because you were just using pure zeal. Like
Hmm.
you weren't really changing lifestyle. You weren't making anything permanent. You're just, pushing through and I don't recommend that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that for sure. For sure. So speaking of like pushing through and lifestyle and those kind of things, what do you teach people? Like, if they do a 5, 7 day, 21 day fast, like, what do you teach them to do when they come off the fast? Like,
Okay.
there a fasting
So
lifestyle you teach?
of course.
Okay.
I'll say this. Number one, when I speak about a fast and how I kind of teach it, we always teach the fast in three parts. It's three parts as one. You have your preparation. It's always some sort of preparation. You have whatever your fasting cycle is going to be and your refeed. So all three of those elements create an entire fast. The refeed, as you mentioned earlier, is pretty much more important than the fast itself,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because if you were to adopt a proper refeed as like your lifestyle, you would see weight come off. You would see
Hmm.
disease reversal. Because when the way we teach our refeed is give the body the most easily digestible nourishment possible, right? So
Right.
you're making it super easy for the body to get what it needs, which is like a big duh.
Yeah.
Like you you
Yeah.
want your body to run efficiently, give it the fuel source it likes and give it what it needs, and it'll run more efficiently. So, depending on how long you've been fasting, if you've done like 3 days, 3 day
Hmm.
water fast, we'll recommend a minimum of a 1 day refeed, right? It's just
Right.
1 day of mindful
Yep.
eating. If you've been doing 7 days of a water fast, we're going to recommend about 3 days.
Hmm.
If you've done a 21-day water fast, we're going to recommend about 7 days to refeed.
Right.
So the longer you fast, the longer you refeed. And the reason why is because the longer you fast, the body actually starts to systems and organs start going dormant. It's an
Right.
interesting
'Cause
thing
they
about the
don't, but you
body.
don't need it
You don't need it.
because you
So
want
let's
to
put
save the energy.
let's use that energy for something else like healing, reversing disease,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And so you have to wake the body up. I look at it like you remember the old carburetors in the cars back in the
Yeah.
day?
Hmm.
Well, if you had a carburetor in your car and you go outside and it's the dead of winter and you try to crank that thing up and go to work,
Yep.
it ain't gonna happen,
Not gonna
right?
happen.
You had to warm the car up. And so that's all we're doing. We're warming our digestive system up. We're warming the body and getting it used to, swallowing even, depending on what type of fast you do. And so we start with high water content fruit to
Mm-hmm.
break. It's okay. I know a lot of people have issues with like the the sugary fruit. Go
Yeah.
low glycemic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cucumber, tomato, even avocado,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and then over the course, depending on, like I said, how long they fast, over the course of that refeed, we slowly integrate. So we'll go to vegetables next. And I
Mm-hmm.
usually recommend steam your vegetables.
Yeah.
Make it really easy. And then we'll introduce natural grains.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we'll do your it depends on the person. Like if you want to start doing like pasta and bread, once again, I recommend you use a natural grain or make
Mm-hmm.
it from scratch. So it's easier for the body to digest.
Digest. Yeah.
And then after that, we'll integrate the meat and dairy products.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of reintroducing meat and dairy just because most people don't source it well.
Mm-hmm.
And dairy is very mucus forming. It's a highly processed food in traditional times. But if you can source it well, there's a
Yeah.
local spot where you could get it, fine.
Right.
I know a
Right.
lot of people are on carnivore and things of that
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
I got no problems with that. I do think we consume too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd recommend reducing your portion size or the frequency that you eat it. And then after that, then you kind of go back to whatever regular eating looks like, where you'll have like processed foods, refined sugars, which I would
I
hope
never
that
recommend that, right? You're just like, please don't do that.
just don't do that,
Just
you
don't,
know?
because yeah, we don't want to. We want your next fast to be better, not undoing what you just did again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris, what is the coolest fasting story that you've had so far?
You know what? If you would have asked me this a couple of months ago, I would have had a completely different story
Yeah.
because this story just happened.
Okay.
So a guy in our community who's been following lightly since 2020, he adopted intermittent fasting, but he did what I call he abused fasting, meaning
Okay.
he learned about the benefits. He was like, "Oh, I could use fasting as a tool to like lose weight and everything, but I could still eat McDonald's. I could still, you
Right.
know."
Right. Yeah.
And so from 2020 to I guess 2024, he abused fasting. And he was able to get his weight under control to a certain degree, but then he kind of lost the reins and he got up to, I think 390 pounds was his
Whew.
highest.
Wow.
Now, in very recent history, he noticed a growth. Okay, he noticed a growth in his lower extremities,
Mm-hmm.
and he went to the doctor, and it was very small at the time, and the doctor said, "Hey, put some cream on it. It's a fungus or whatever. I don't know."
Yeah.
Okay, over time, the growth got bigger and bigger. The cream wasn't working. Ultimately, he ends up going back to his doctor. The doctor sends him to a specialist who works in some type of cancer specialist.
Yeah.
The specialist, without even doing any like testing, says that's cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do their biopsy and they do it. It comes back confirmed cancer. Okay. So then the doctor is just like, look, we've got to cut that off. We're going to schedule your surgery. This is how things are going to go. And now what they were going to the surgery they were going to do was going to permanently debilitate him. It was going to completely change his life. It was not a good option. And he
Right.
asked, like, what other options are there? There are no other options, they said. This is the path, and it's happening soon because this is aggressive. It's a lymphatic cancer. It can
Mm.
spread. Okay. So he called me the so that happened on like a Wednesday or whatever, Thursday. He scheduled a call with me. I met with him on Monday. He had already started fasting by the time we got on the phone, which once again, I don't recommend, but I understand the motivation. Well, we put together a plan and we did some really aggressive fasting, which I don't typically recommend, but because of what he was dealing with,
Right.
I usually.
Yeah.
And I suggested a few supplements to go with it. It
Yeah.
was a very aggressive cancer, so we did some supplementation. One really simple thing you guys can do, castor packs.
Oh my gosh, they're so easy, right?
They're so easy.
Yeah.
And so I had him do a castor pack and some other things, and he ended up fasting for 46 days.
Wow. Wow.
Right. So now during that time, we did a little bit of infused water.
Mm-hmm.
We did some of the salt I mentioned to you earlier, so it
Yeah.
wasn't 100% pure, but he was able to do it. In that 46-day fast, he lost 75 pounds. The tumor, remember I said it was a growth,
Yeah.
completely stopped and it started breaking off.
Nice. Yeah.
So then he's like, all right, Chris, what's next? And I'm just like, oh, you're aggressive. And so we ended up doing another fast. I think we did 18 days the second time. Now,
Uh-huh.
in between the fasts, I had him on um I wouldn't say it was a raw diet, but it was a lot of like fruits and
Sure.
vegetables,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
zero processed food,
Yeah.
right? When you deal with cancer, zero
Zero
processed food,
processed food.
no
Yeah.
refined sugar. Most cancer specialists that like are in the wellness field, they'll tell you no sugar, even fruit sugar.
Right.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I also understand the body and I know why that is the recommendation. And so, because of how aggressive he was, I didn't have a problem with him having the fruit sugar
Yeah.
because he was very determined and I knew it wasn't going to hurt him long term.
Right.
But normally, I'll usually tell people no fruit sugar,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so he did a great refeed. He completely nailed it. Oh, also, big thing. I taught him my sun water method. Okay.
Okay.
So sun water is where we start with a distilled water base. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a pure water base. You get a clear glass jar. You set that out in the sun. Get as much direct sunlight as you can. Just leave it outside all day.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you cork it with either a cork or cheesecloth just to keep the bugs out.
Yeah.
Don't use plastic or anything like that. No
Yeah.
metal,
Yeah.
nothing that
Yeah.
can leach into it. The sun will ionize the water. It will further break down any organic material in the water because the distillation process isn't perfect. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you buy it in plastic jug, it's going to leach some of
Yeah.
that stuff back in. And then it'll also alkalize the water. And
Good.
so we had him drinking that water, and then if you want to do your salt or if you want to do your infused water, you sun charge it first, you do that. And it increases the hydration of the water, the
That's
properties of the water.
amazing. I didn't know that. I've not done ever done I've done sun tea, where I guess would be similar, but
It's
yeah,
very,
I just
yeah.
never done water. That's great, Chris, to know.
And it also will, if you're sensitive enough, you could taste the difference as well.
Interesting.
So we did that. He did a second 18 days of fasting, further shrinking of the tumor. And it was there was pus and there was all kinds of material coming out, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
More breaking off of it, energy levels up. And then once again, I document this on my channel so you guys
Yeah,
can go and kind of see. He's got the best energy. He has an amazing outlook on life now.
that's fantastic.
He's constantly learning more and more. And we finally got his blood work back maybe about a month ago now. It might have been maybe a little bit more than a month ago. He has no markers in his blood to show that his
Woohoo.
cancer is active,
Amen. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's been an incredible journey sharing his story, but that's probably the most exciting. And he's very active right now, so
Uh-huh.
people can still follow him. The tumor is still shrinking,
Yeah.
but as far as we're concerned, he's completely out of the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man, that just makes my heart so happy because the body can do what it's created to do if we just remove the interference. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fantastic. Chris, where can people find you?
So if you can follow me on Instagram. So a.healthy.alternative, a healthy alternative on Instagram. And actually, if you DM me on Instagram, um, if you just simply DM me and say, "Hey Chris, I want to get the 7-day guide," I will provide you guys for free my 7-day prep guide. And that way,
Oh,
if
that's
you just want to get
awesome.
into fasting, yeah, I thought that would be a nice gift.
Yeah,
And
good
then
gift.
also we have a community or it's kind of like a Facebook community. It's a free membership. where people can come and join and be a part of a fasting community, you know? So that is a healthy, ahacommunities.com.
Okay.
And then you guys can find me on YouTube at A Healthy Alternative.
Awesome. And that'll all be in the show notes too, but everybody needs to go follow Chris because this is fantastic, Chris. Thank you so much for sharing, all your genius on fasting, and I love your mission.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Awesome.
me.
And thank you everyone for watching and listening. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this because I know that you know somebody who needs this fasting information. So share it with them today, and I will see you in the next episode. God bless.